By our sponsor, Finward Blackwell. Today's media being distributed through tomorrow's technology.
I'm Tabitha Williams, and welcome to What's Eating Harlem. We cover the most exciting community in the world. There's so much happening in Harlem. Let's get started.
Why am I going downtown to do this and present this to the folks downtown? We wanted people in Harlem to experience, the things that people do downtown or whatever.
The space is tiny, but the flavors are big. This husband and wife team wouldn't have it any other way. Ring the bell for Belle Harlem.
You want to sing it? Sing it real fast.
Love Jones.
I gotta love Jones. I gotta love Jones. He's a jack of all trades, master of everything. Joey Harris is a music exec, music producer, singer, you name it. We sit down with one of the music industry's major power players.
When we think about the economy of New York City and Wall Street, it's impossible to truly understand its origins without understanding that enslaved people were the foundations of building this economy.
You probably know about Harriet Tubman's Underground Railroad. But did you know there was an Underground Railroad in New York City? Our tour guide, Stacy Toussaint, takes us for a ride through the New York City slave train. All that and more coming up next. Just north of 138th Street and 7th Avenue in Harlem, Chef Daryl is serving small plates with big flavor.
Daryl Burnett, co-owner of Belle Harlem. I graduated from the Culinary Institute of America, 2004. Worked at some restaurants, a bunch of restaurants in the city, executive chef, and I got to a point where I was ready to do my own thing.
And doing your own thing, you established Belle Harlem. Why did you choose Harlem?
My wife and I have been living in Harlem for 13 years. We purchased our condo about 11 years ago. And, working at these restaurants downtown, I realized that, and even after work, it's like on the weekends, we wanted to experience like good food, good service. And I was like, why am I going downtown to do this and present this to the folks downtown? We wanted people in Harlem to experience, the things that people do downtown or whatever per se. But yeah, that was it. This was our home, and we wanted to have a restaurant in a neighborhood that we would want to go to.
And how did you come up with the name Belle?
Belle is a nod to strong women. So like Southern Belle. Melissa and I, we both grew up in Southwest Virginia. So this was like, a nod to a lot of the strong females in my family and influences in my life. Working, I almost prefer to work with women, especially in a lot of the kitchens, the professional kitchens, it's always this masculine machismo. And, a lot of the women I work with, it's like the female chefs that will come in and just take care of business, and it was we all had our drama, but it wasn't the same as having a bunch of men in the kitchen. So yeah, it was, and to be honest, our demographic are professional women. So no one's crazy. We did our homework, and women are killing it, making great improvements in professional aspects and stuff, and we're like, hey, this was the demographic that we were targeting, professional women who were making things happen. And so we figured we get that, of course the men will come, if needed, but that's not what we were focusing on. That was where we were wanting to focus on.
So you created your demographic. How did you come up with the concept for the aesthetic of the place?
A combination of my wife and I. We are both big fans of tiny house living. So, coming out of culinary school and being told that this is the traditional way you do this and do that, but I have a background in architecture. So watching these tiny house living shows, I started thinking like, wow, going this traditional way of these big restaurants is not the right way. Maybe this is a path that works better. So that was the beginning. Like, wow, you can do so much in these, we have 275 square feet, everything, including the bathroom. So, like, wow, it's financially, it made more sense. The labor costs and all those things are much, much lower. And, if we have 6 people come into our tiny restaurant, we're half full. If you have 212 seats and 6 people come in, you're screwed.
Now let's talk about the food and the concepts and the pairings. How did you create all that for this menu?
So the dishes are a combination of things that I grew up with, things that I learned from culinary school, things I learned from working in different kitchens in New York City, and then finding the things that work for me, and just playing around with different flavors.
And how would you describe the flavor pairings?
It's funny to hear, but people always say it's kind of like a party in your mouth. It's always a little embarrassing to hear that, but I try to do flavors that are appealing, but like, wow, this is something I didn't think that would work, and it actually really works really well. Like we were talking earlier about the jalapeno and banana maple syrup for the chicken and waffles. Even to the changing the size of the waffle, because we wanted it to be a small plate and we didn't want it to be too heavy. Most chicken and waffles are big traditional, those Belgian waffles. So we use the Italian pizzelles, so little thin, crispy wafers. So it's more of a small plate tapas type of deal, but it's filling. It's not gonna, you're not gonna want to just eat one of those. You're gonna probably want 2 or 3. But so those are the concepts. We want it to be American. I like to call the food comfort chic.
I want to talk about this food.
Yeah.
So what will you prepare for us today?
Okay, so we're gonna start out with our mac and cheese spring rolls. And then we'll do Asian pear salad that we're doing with a little Asian, it's a yuzu kosho, which is a Japanese condiment, citrus condiment that we make a dressing out of. And then we'll do maybe the bon appetit for dessert.
I can't wait. So what are you preparing right now?
So we're working on, we're gonna put together our Asian pear salad. So in the bowl here we have some baby arugula. We're gonna add some apple smoked bacon, some fresh figs, Asian pear, little gorgonzola cheese. I like to kind of put everything in together at one time, and then when you put the dressing on there, the dressing kind of covers everything. Yeah. I'm a big fan of crunch. So we like to put some walnuts in there. So like I said, it's like a harvest, like a very hearty fall salad.
This all looks so delicious. Tell me and the viewers what we have here.
We are gonna start out with our Asian pear salad, arugula, Asian pear, some walnuts, little smoked bacon and figs, and we finish it off with yuzu kosho dressing. So it has a little citrus and spice flavor going on there. And then next to that is our mac and cheese spring rolls. They are served with a smoked Gouda bechamel and a bourbon bacon marmalade. So this is the fried apples that we were doing earlier. Southern fried apples, cinnamon, sugar, little vanilla, excuse me. And we top that off with a little crumble, toffee crumble. And then we finish it with cinnamon rosemary ice cream and a little Parmesan twill to play on the apple pie and cheese concept. Yeah, that's it. We wanted people to feel like that they were coming into our home. And this was really based on having dinner parties. You know, Melissa would always ask me if I was crazy, but I'm like, you know, on the weekends we would invite 12, 13 people over for dinner, and that was always the most enjoyable times. And I'm like, wow, how could we make what we're doing in our apartment, how can we make that my everyday work experience? And so then I started thinking, well, and like I was saying with the tiny house concept, it's like, well, why don't we just build a kitchen where we can invite 12 people at a time instead of trying to build this big restaurant, because that 12-seat intimate connection was what I wanted, you know, because I didn't want to be back somewhere in the kitchen, no connection, or downstairs, and you never get to see your guests. You know, I wanted to be a part of the party, and that makes my day go better, because it's like having a dinner party versus going to work.
On this electric ride, world sees us tonight. We're lightning bolts in the sky, flashing with thunder.
My mother was always very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual, and she didn't know whether she should go forward or turn, and she wasn't even really sure where she was at. It was very unsettling for her.
I felt so much better after my son told me, Mom, I don't want you to worry or be afraid. I'll be there for you and we'll figure it out.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanting to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Hi, I'm Jen Jade, and I love West Eden, Harlem.
We're in Lower Manhattan at Duane Park, where not only do they have burlesque shows and dinner, but inside I'll be interviewing Joey Harris.
I grew up, loving music and singing and writing and learning about the business, but growing up, I always was looking at music videos and studying people like Puff Daddy and Babyface and L.A. Reid.
You want to sing it? Sing it real fast.
Love Jones.
I gotta love Jones. I gotta love Jones.
For you.
Yes.
I'm Joey Harris, CEO of Joey Harris Inc. and Senior Vice President for Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation. I grew up right here in New York City, Upper West Side, Central Park West, 96th Street.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so New York City kid, born, raised.
Born, raised. I went to school at Patrick Henry PS 171 right over the park.
Okay.
On the Upper East Side. But born and raised in New York City. Loved it ever since I was little. We moved to Jersey when I was about 7 or 8 because my parents started having more kids, so we couldn't all fit in the apartment. But I found my way back here for grad school at NYU.
You're a music exec industry person. I mean, we're talking Sony, we're talking Beyonce. Exactly how do you manage to maneuver through, the industry?
I think first, thanks to God. Thanks to my father, Joseph Fleming. He opened a lot of doors for me when I was 16. My first job at Sony at RCA Records, working, for the head of marketing. That was my first time working at a label, and so that was my introduction to the music industry, where I learned so much.
And then, who are some artists that you've worked with or helped develop?
I've been blessed to work with, I would say my first projects were SWV, Tyrese.
Okay.
And then after I left RCA at that time, then I went over to Columbia and Destiny's Child, Lauryn Hill, Will Smith, Nas, Maxwell. The roster was insane. Mary Mary. It was kind of like an unreal situation working at marketing at that time.
How was it from working with Destiny's Child to then being a consultant for Beyonce and her own label?
That was another amazing blessing. Just, going back and forth, working with the camp throughout the years, through Music World, then through Parkwood. I would say my associate, Jake McKim, and Leanne Callahan, who was general manager, they asked me if I would come in and do development for Beyonce. It was one of her first signed artists, Sophie Beam, and that was just a huge blessing to get that opportunity to develop Sophie with an amazing team and with Beyonce. So I was in charge of everything from developing the live show, who she was going to be presented to, and the core for that, and the beautiful thing what Beyonce promotes is be who you are. Let's be as authentic as you are. So it wasn't a situation of I'm going to develop you into this person. It's like, let's develop the best you. Let's figure out what's your message, who you are, what do you want to present to the world, and so that's what we worked on.
If you live it for the moment, don't stop, celebrate the feels. Grow up, if you live it for the moment, I don't stop, celebrate the ceilings. Go up, one day for now, not tomorrow.
And now you're working with Janet Jackson, Rhythm Nation, as the SVP.
Yes.
How did that happen?
It's crazy. I still pinch myself like, is this really happening?
Had you always admired Janet?
Janet was my biggest inspiration, for going into the industry. I always studied her career and was just so inspired by, I like artists that stand for something and have a message. So the fact that she wasn't just an artist that was just singing about whatever or, just doing whatever. She actually had a message that impacted the world and inspired people and saved lives. And so that's the type of artist and the type of company I like to be a part of.
can go ahead.
Scene 103, take one.
I thought we'd be on the same page about this, and we're not.
How do I know the way I'm going to respond to it?
I want you to get the vaccine because I want you to be safe.
What if you end up in the hospital? That's what I'm scared of.
If you was to die, man, that would literally kill me, man.
I hug you.
Yeah. If it made you feel that way, bro, I'll probably do. I love you. I love you too.
When I got the opportunity to get her, there wasn't no choice. I told myself, I'm gonna take custody of my daughter. It's my baby. That's what we're supposed to do as men. Take care of our home, build a foundation, you know what I'm saying? Love, our money, she's my purpose. I'm here to walk with her, hold her hand until she can walk alone. Ain't nothing like being a father in this world.
My mother was always very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual, and she didn't know whether she should go forward or turn, and she wasn't even really sure where she was at. It was very unsettling for her.
I felt so much better after my son told me, Mom, I don't want you to worry or be afraid. I'll be there for you, and we'll figure it out.
The Underground Railroad was comprised of people who, when called upon, would do their job, would do a task to save someone. And then they would move them on to the next location. Now, the next location might be another station or safe house, or it might be Canada, which was the one place where the slaveholders couldn't follow you. What people often think of, they think about free states and slave states.
That's what I'm thinking in my head. I'm thinking of free states. I'm thinking of slave states. I'm thinking, once you made it to New York, weren't you safe? Wasn't this considered the free state? Wasn't this, the goal? Now, I know some people went to Canada, just to be completely away from everything. But I thought, once you make it to New York, you're good.
So what was so ironic about the circumstance was that when the South was talking about protecting slavery, they would also often talk about states' rights, but states' rights only when it helped them, because the federal government intervened to create fugitive slave laws that allowed slaveholders to go into free states and kidnap people. Yeah, kidnap
their property.
Well, it was even worse than that. By 1850, a slaveholder could go into a free state, kidnap the person that they alleged was once enslaved by them, and also take their children, even if the children had not been born into slavery under that slaveholder. Not only that, the government made it a crime to assist people trying to escape the slaveholders, with 6 months in jail or a $1,000 fine in that time's currency, which would be far, far more in our currency today. So what Thomas Downing was doing was he was risking his own freedom. He was risking whatever fines would be levied. He was risking everything to try to save others as a station master on the Underground Railroad in New York City. of the great unsung heroes of the Underground Railroad that we talk about on our tour is a man named David Ruggles. David Ruggles was a New Yorker who rescued more people than Harriet Tubman.
More people?
Yes, it's estimated that he rescued over 600 people.
Wow.
And one of the people he rescued was Frederick Douglass.
Are you serious?
When Frederick Douglass was an escaped slave.
So why do you think David Ruggles is like an unsung hero?
I think that sometimes it takes a while for people to remember and recognize heroes. We know that usually heroes are not celebrated in their own time. We know Martin Luther King certainly wasn't, Malcolm X wasn't.
Right.
And in the same way, I think people are beginning to understand who David Ruggles was. David Ruggles established something called the Committee of Vigilance that would actually rescue people who were being taken by bounty hunters going after fugitive enslaved people. David Ruggles started one of the first printing presses of African Americans in the city. He ran it from his own home.
And he was an African American himself.
He was an African American who was born free, who came here in 1827.
He was born free?
He was born free in Connecticut, yes. And he came here to fight the fight. He had a bookstore in his home. He was an activist that was so effective that there were bounties on his head. And he did everything in his power to show people the way to the Underground Railroad. If it wasn't for David Ruggles, we may never have had a Frederick Douglass. And so we talk about this unsung hero of the Underground Railroad who was a New Yorker. So if you see these courthouses behind us, you think of this as a place of justice. This was a place of injustice where people like David Ruggles would go to try to create justice for those enslaved people who were being taken back into slavery.
That's all the time we have for now. But join us next time on What's Eating Harlem. See you uptown.
Never the right moment, girl. Always with somebody else, so hard to get at you. On a different circumstance. We would be more than just friends, hiding from the truth. It's complicated, complicated.